Cat, and 2017 is finally f***ing over. Now, 2018 does seem to be just a lot of the same old shit, but at least we're better equipped for it now. Yay! Anyways, today I want to talk about my favorite reads of 2017. I do a video kind of like this every year, but the format changes every time because what is consistency? I sure don't know. Look at my upload schedule. So this year, I've made a list of my 5 favorite books that I read in 2017. They didn't necessarily come out in 2017, but most of them did. But before I jump into that top 5, I thought I would show you guys all the books I read last year. I managed to finish 45 books last year, which I'm pretty happy with. Like, I didn't quite hit my goal of reading 50 books, but I came really close, and between the traveling and the writing and just like the general reading slumpiness of 2017, like I'm pretty satisfied with my number of 45. Like I did all right. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through those real quick so you guys can get a good idea of my reading year. You can see like all the candidates for my favorite books before I get to that top 5 list. And if you do want to know more about any of these books, then I will be linking my monthly review wrap-up videos down below because I talked about all of these books in length in previous videos. So if you want to know more, you can check that out. All right, let's get started. Here are the books I read in 2017. My first book of the year was History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silveira. Then I read The You I've Never Known by Ellen Hopkins. The 100 Lies of Lizzie Lovett by Chelsea Sidoti. Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. Then I made my way through the first 4 books in A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, and I read these on ebook, so I don't have the physical copies. Then I have The Edge of Everything by Jeff Giles. Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Then I reread Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. On audiobook, though, I just wanted to hold up a physical one. Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. Geekerella by Ashley Posten. Then I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury in order to prepare myself for A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Then I have here Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Windfall by Jennifer E. Smith. A Gathering of Shadows and A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. Then I listened to You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero on audiobook. Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire. The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. Then I have the Monsters of Verity duology, The Savage Song and Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Leigh. The first 2 books in the Trials of Apollo series by Rick Riordan. When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Little Monsters by Cara Thomas. All Rights Reserved by Gregory Scott Katsolis. Then I have here The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. A Night of Cake and Puppets by Lainey Taylor. Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli, and this was another reread for me because I got to see the movie. A Shadow Bright and Burning by Jessica Cluess. Next is Sleeping Giants by Sylvan Nouvelle, and I actually listened to this on audiobook. A Short History of the Girl Next Door by Jared Rack. Magnus Chase and the Ship of the Dead by Rick Riordan. There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. Otherworld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I went in for yet another reread of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. And finally, I closed out my reading year with Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeymoon. Alright, those are all of the books I read in 2017, and now we move into the favorites. I'm not counting rereads because I reread a couple of my all-time faves this year, and I'm not counting those. And again, these are just my personal favorites. These are the books that I enjoyed the most, not necessarily the books that I think are like objectively the best, but they're the ones that I loved, the ones that brought me joy in a dark, dark year. And actually, I do have a handful of like runners-up that I want to briefly mention before we get into like the top 5. So the first honorable mention goes to Sean McGuire's books in the Wayward Children series. I love the writing and the ideas in these books, but they're a little bit on the short side. There's just not quite enough oomph there for me. Then I have to shout out The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Leigh because I adored this book. It was so fun and charming, and I just love the main character, Monty. The plot wasn't quite there for me, but I still thoroughly enjoyed this book. Then I have here ACOWAR by Sarah J. Maas. I love this series. I love the world. I'm so attached to the characters and invested in their lives. And I did still really enjoy this book. I just found it a little underwhelming for the third book in the trilogy. The next honorable mention goes to Sleeping Giants by Sylvan Nouvelle, which again, I listened to the audiobook of this and it was spectacular. It was like one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. Awesome story, amazing audiobook performance. I just wasn't quite connected enough to the characters to be able to call this like an all-time favorite. And my final honorable mention here goes to Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. So, yeah, I have some complicated feelings about this one. I haven't done my December wrap-up yet, so I will be talking about this book in more detail in that video coming soon. But yeah, I can't say that I enjoyed this book. Like, it was objectively very good, it was well written and powerful and moving, but enjoyment was just not a feeling that I felt while reading this book. Like, it was not an enjoyable experience for me. It was a very good book, but I didn't like it, if that makes sense. I'll talk more about it in my next video. Okay, we're finally, for real, moving into the top 5 favorites. Let's do this. So these are in no particular order. I am just gonna start with GEEKERELLA by Ashley Posten. I did not have super high expectations going into this book. Like, personally, I love fantasy a lot more than contemporary, and I've never been a huge fan of Cinderella retellings, so I went into this thinking it would be decent. But I was not prepared to be like completely sucked into this book and just swept away. It was so fun and sweet and charming and just wonderful. Like, I did happen to read this at a time where like a cute, lighthearted contemporary was exactly what I needed. So that's a big factor in why this book made my favorites list, because again, this is all about my personal enjoyment, and I personally really freaking enjoyed this one. Then I have here History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silveira. Another contemporary book in my top 5. What is happening? I'll tell you what's happening. Adam wrote a hella good book. This was actually my first read of the year, so it set a pretty nice tone because I loved it. Adam's writing and stories and characters are just so real and raw, and it just, if this book doesn't make you feel things, then you're probably a robot. Like, I thought I was probably a robot. This book still got me. It's a good one. The next book that I just absolutely adored was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is one of those books where like personal enjoyment and also just like objective quality are both very, very high in my opinion. Like, this is a fantastic book if you're just like assessing it without feeling. And then if you factor in my feelings, like, it's amazing. It was amazing. I loved it. From the world to the characters to the plot to the writing, just like everything about this was fantastic. It was so good. Like, I enjoyed the Grisha trilogy, but with the Six of Crows duology, like, Leigh Bardugo just like elevated to a whole new level of amazing. Like, this was fantastic. The next favorite of mine that I read this year, you might be able to guess because there's an empty spot on my bookshelf right there. It's The Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. So I actually read 4 books by Victoria Schwab this year, and any one of these could have been the one I chose for this list because I adored all of these books. Like, Victoria Schwab is one of my favorite authors, and that has just been like cemented now after I read all of these books because they were all amazing and fantastic. I love Victoria Schwab's books. obviously. But I decided that she could only claim one spot in my top 5 list, so I had to choose just one Victoria Schwab book, and I went with A Conjuring of Light. I love this world, I love the characters, I love the story, I love the magics, I love everything. Victoria Schwab's books are fantastic. Big fan. And finally, the last book I have to add to my top 5 favorites of 2017 is gonna be Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Are you surprised? I don't think you are, unless you're new. In that case, hey, welcome. I love this series. Cassandra Clare is so good at melodrama. And if you don't like the angst and the conflict and personal relationships and stuff like that, then you probably won't like her books. But if you live for stuff like that, for developing intense, strong feelings for characters and becoming so invested in their happiness that their angst becomes your angst and it just breaks your heart and you feel too much, if you're into that kind of thing, I recommend The Dark Artifices. Actually, I wouldn't recommend starting with this series because it really builds on both of the 2 previous series, so you should start there. There's a lot of Shadowhunter books to read, but oh man, they just keep getting better and better and better, and this was it my favorite yet? I don't know. I need to reread Lady Midnight and The Infernal Devices because I haven't read those in like forever. But yeah, anyways, Lord of Shadows was fantastic. I loved it. I flew through it. It's a big ass book. You know, it's a lot to get through, but oh man, the characters and the emotions that they feel is just, it's real good stuff. It's real good stuff. Okay, that is it. Those are my favorite reads of 2017, and that's gonna do it for this video today. I would love to hear from you guys what your favorite books of 2017 were. Like, what books did I miss? What 2017 books do I absolutely need to get to ASAP? Let me know, because I'm putting together my 2018 TBR, and it's already out of control, so help me add to the chaos. Why not? Anyways, that is it for this video today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I will have another video up soon. So I will see you then. Goodbye!